So if views are great for being able to read data, what happens if we want to be able to modify data? Or what happens if maybe we want a little bit more control over how our callers can use that data? For example, maybe we want to restrict the different fields that they're allowed to filter on. Well, this is where stored procedures come into play. Now we're going to start off by taking a look at our stored procedure concepts and then roll into actually creating them. Stored procedures are SQL objects. And just like views, what you're going to notice is that it's going to be a collection of syntax. Now, the main differences between stored procedures and many other objects inside of SQL is that stored procedures have the ability to modify data. What that then does is it gives me control over how that data is going to be modified. So if I want to add some additional rules about values, or if I want to make it easier maybe for somebody to be able to do an update that might involve a couple, 3, 4 tables, I can do that through a stored procedure. Stored procedures also give us the ability to return back multiple tables. This can be very helpful for applications where maybe we want to break down the master details into 2 separate tables, and then eventually we're going to join them together on the client side. With a view, I'm not able to do that because a view is only one table. But with a stored procedure, I can do that with one stored procedure. Stored procedures also can accept parameters. And what parameters will allow us to do is they'll allow us to control and require certain pieces of data be passed in order for the execution to work properly. Finally, last but not least, stored procedures can improve security. Because just like with a view, I can call the stored procedure without necessarily needing permissions to the underlying tables. So that way, I can take away the ability for somebody to edit data inside of a table, give them stored procedures instead, and then control, through the use of the stored procedures, how exactly the edits are going to take place. The catch with a stored procedure, however, is that a stored procedure is not as flexible to the user. In a lot of ways, the stored procedure gives the developer the control, not the user. When you stop and think about this compared to a view, with a view, the caller has complete control because they get to choose the columns, they get to choose how it is they're going to do the filter, the order by. With the stored procedure, however, it's all up to the stored procedure. Let's talk a little bit about some of the best practices revolving around stored procedures. First of all is to set no count on. This is going to give you a couple of different advantages. First of all, is it's going to minimize the amount of information that's going to be sent down to the client. And second, it's going to just tell SQL, don't bother keeping track of that information, which is going to limit or reduce the amount of work that SQL has to do. The next part is like with every object, always use 2-part naming. And then finally, use good query writing. Now, the one that I want to call out here in particular is the transactions. Because one of the things that you're going to be able to do with a stored procedure is modify data. You may need to put that inside of a transaction. So the same rules apply. Make sure that your transactions are as short as possible and that you're only editing the data that you need to edit, the smallest amount of data.